Have you ever noticed how the world never stops speaking? A constant stream of notifications, conversations, and mental chatter that drowns out the most important voice, your own. Like standing in a crowded marketplace where everyone shouts their truth, while yours remains whispered beneath the noise. The ancient masters knew what modern science confirms. In stillness lies power. When we contract the external world, we expand the internal one. This 30-day journey into silence isn't about becoming mute. It's about finally hearing what has always been trying to speak through you. If this exploration resonates with you, I invite you to subscribe and join our community of seekers on the path to self-mastery. There is an ancient story of a student who approached a Shaolin master, asking how to find wisdom. The master took him to a still pond and asked what he saw. "My reflection," the student answered. The master disturbed the water with his hand and asked again. "Nothing clear," replied the student. "This," said the master, "is why we practice stillness." Have you noticed how your mind constantly ripples like that disturbed pond? The mental chatter never truly stops, evaluating, planning, rehashing conversations, anticipating the future. This incessant internal dialogue has become so normal that you barely recognize its presence anymore. It has become the water you swim in without knowing you're wet. When you embark on a 30-day journey of silence, the first revelation comes surprisingly quickly. By day 3 or 4, most people report a startling awareness of just how noisy their minds actually are. Without external conversations to distract you, the internal one becomes deafeningly loud. You begin to witness the constant commentator who lives inside your head, offering unsolicited opinions about everything and everyone. This is not a sign of failure, but the first triumph, becoming aware of what was always there. In the ordinary world, imagine waiting for coffee at your local cafe. As someone bumps into you without apologizing, your mind instantly creates a narrative. How rude! People are so inconsiderate these days. This always happens to me. This split-second internal monologue happens automatically, below the threshold of conscious awareness. But in silence, these thought patterns become illuminated. Every culture knows this already. If you only have theory without the practice, then it's just book knowledge. Then it's just something that you lay in the couch, you lay in the bed, and then you think about, I know it. Yeah, okay, it's good that you know it, but there must be a way. How are you putting these things into practice? The challenge is not to eliminate this voice, for it is part of being human, but to develop the capacity to witness it without being consumed by it. When you practice silence, you cultivate the ability to step back and observe your thoughts rather than being carried away by their current. You create space between stimulus and response. Think of Alex, who arrived at his silent retreat with a mind crowded with responsibilities and concerns. By day 10, he noticed how automatically his thoughts created elaborate stories from simple observations. A frown from another retreatant would trigger an entire narrative about being disliked, which would then spiral into memories of past rejections. In silence, Alex could finally see this pattern unfolding in real time, rather than being unconsciously driven by it. This awareness creates choice. When you recognize the patterns, you can begin to ask, is this thought serving me? Is this story true? Must I continue this familiar path, or can I choose a different response? The practice is simple but not easy. Observe without judgment, witness without attachment. Allow thoughts to arise and pass like clouds in the sky, while you remain the unchanging awareness that watches them drift by. What internal commentaries run through your mind unexamined? What stories have you told yourself so consistently that you've forgotten they are interpretations rather than facts? In 30 days of silence, these questions find not intellectual answers, but experiential ones. The 5 hindrances are describing different states of the mind. In those states of the mind, it becomes very hard to see clearly and therefore engage in the right decisions. As the days of silence deepen, you will inevitably encounter what Buddhist and Shaolin traditions call the 5 hindrances, those mental states that prevent clarity and self-mastery. They emerge not because silence creates them, but because silence removes the distractions that usually help you avoid them. The first hindrance is called sensual desire. Sensual desire arises in the moment when you are paying attention to something that is giving you a positive emotion. This positive emotion can originate from 5 gates of your body: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or feeling. So in your mind, you climb up that mountain. After 1 mile of walking, you discover a beautiful restaurant surrounded by beautiful people. You smell delicious food and the great variety of beverages. When you follow that temptation, you have already lost your track. When this temptation becomes so strong that you don't want to leave that place anymore, then the sensual desire has turned into an obsession. In silent practice, this may manifest as craving for stimulation, checking your phone, fantasizing about delicious meals, or yearning for conversation. You might find yourself clinging to pleasant memories or sensations as a way to escape the discomfort of stillness. The second hindrance, ill will, describes the state of the mind that arises from negative emotions. In that state of the mind, you have an aversion, a rejection, or simply a dislike against either an object, a situation, or can be even a person. This reveals itself as irritation toward others in the retreat space, resentment about past situations, or anger at yourself for not being better at silence. Many people report that by day 15, they've cycled through being annoyed at nearly everyone they've ever known, all without a single word being exchanged. To simplify, it means you are climbing the mountain and it starts to rain, but you don't like rain. You discover the roads are bumpy, but you don't like bumpy roads. In order to cross the river, you need to swim, but you don't like swimming. The third hindrance originally translated as sloth and torpor. Sloth means it's the heaviness of the body. Torpor means it's the dullness of the mind. It is characterized by sleepiness, non-motivation, lack of energy, and oftentimes can manifest itself in a state of depression. In silence, this appears as lethargy, excessive sleeping, or a heavy, foggy mental state where practice feels impossible. You may find yourself spending hours in bed, not because you need rest, but because engagement with your inner life feels too demanding. Now, the fourth hindrance is called restlessness. It is the state of an unsettled mind. Unsettled mind means your mind cannot settle. Settle where? Settle in the present moment. An unsettled mind either is worrying about the future or traveling into the past and rejecting, judging about an event that happened into your past. This manifests as the inability to sit still, constantly planning future projects, or obsessively reviewing past conversations. Your body may feel jittery, your attention scattered. Some retreat participants report cleaning their rooms repeatedly or organizing their belongings compulsively, anything to avoid the discomfort of simply being. Now, the last of the 5 hindrances is called skeptical doubt, and it's very closely related to a state of mind which is based on indecisiveness. It is very easy in that state of mind getting lost in thoughts. Can I do this? Is this the right path? What will the others say? What if this? What if that? In silence, this appears as questioning the value of the practice itself. Is this really helping me? Should I be doing something more productive? Maybe this whole spiritual journey is self-indulgent. This doubt can become so convincing that many abandon their practice just before breakthrough moments occur. What makes these hindrances so challenging is that they don't announce themselves as obstacles. They disguise themselves as reasonable thoughts, as your authentic self speaking. But they are merely patterns, habitual ways your mind protects itself from change. By day 20, Alex confronted his deep-seated insecurity about not being enough, not successful enough, not disciplined enough, not spiritual enough. This insecurity had driven much of his life, pushing him toward achievements but never allowing satisfaction. In silence, without distraction, he could finally see this pattern for what it was, not a truth about himself, but a story he had internalized long ago. This is a 4-step method to help you removing those hindrances. The first step is recognize in what state of the mind you are finding yourself in. Recognize, accept, investigate, non-identity. Afterwards, learn to accept, acknowledge, and allow the situation or a person to be the way how it is, to be the way how they are. The Buddhist tradition offers a powerful framework for working with these hindrances, often abbreviated as RAIN. Recognize what is happening. Name the hindrance when it appears. Accept it with compassion rather than fighting against it. Investigate with curiosity how it feels in your body, what thoughts accompany it. Non-identification. Remember that you are not the hindrance, it is a passing state. This methodology isn't about eliminating these states. They are natural aspects of the human mind. The mastery comes in recognizing them quickly, accepting them without judgment, and not allowing them to dictate your actions. Which of these hindrances appears most frequently in your daily life? How might recognizing it change your relationship with it? What would it mean to accept even your most uncomfortable mental states with compassion rather than resistance? As the silence extends into its third week, something remarkable begins to happen. As the mind gradually quiets, the body's intelligence becomes more apparent. Sensations that were previously ignored beneath the noise of mental activity now rise to awareness. What I do is like when I touch, so it's not this type of touching you. When I touch you, I literally try to sense your body structure. Yeah, I feel like inside you, where is the tension? Where's the relaxation inside the body? So it's like we call it, I'm reading your body. I'm reading your body. This heightened bodily awareness reveals a different kind of wisdom, one that doesn't speak in words but communicates through sensation. You might notice how certain thoughts create immediate physical responses, a tightening in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a warmth in your heart. These bodily reactions often contain insights that the thinking mind cannot access. In our modern world, we have become increasingly disconnected from this somatic intelligence. We override feelings of fatigue with caffeine, mask discomfort with distractions, and ignore intuitive signals that something isn't right. The constant external stimulation drowns out the subtle language of the body. The future doesn't matter if you are not there. Your business doesn't matter if you are not there. Who can witness the success and the loss of whatever your business is doing there? You cannot enjoy your family if you are not there. So the whole point I would like to point out is apparently there is something about you. By day 25 of silence, many retreatants report a profound reconnection with this physical wisdom. They describe feeling more in their bodies than they have since childhood. Simple activities like walking, eating, and breathing take on new dimensions of experience. The boundary between mind and body begins to dissolve, revealing their intimate connection. This embodied awareness becomes particularly valuable when making decisions. Beyond logical pros and cons, the body offers its own intelligence, a felt sense of rightness or wrongness that can guide choices more wisely than mental calculations alone. Consider how Alex, by the fourth week of his retreat, noticed how certain memories created immediate physical responses: tension, nausea, or expansion and ease. These bodily responses helped him discern which relationships and activities genuinely nourished him and which depleted his vitality, regardless of how they appeared on paper. I think one of the problems is that what is it that is missing in order for all these type of influences and talks, all this type of impact start to really have an effect on someone? And this is not something which is coming from the Shaolin tradition. Every culture knows this already. If you only have theory without the practice, then it's just book knowledge. Then it's just something that you lay in the couch, you lay in the bed, and then you think about, I know it. Yeah, okay, it's good that you know it, but there must be a way. How are you putting these things into practice? This embodied wisdom extends beyond personal insight to interpersonal awareness as well. Without words to obscure meaning, you may find yourself more attuned to the emotional states of others. Many silent retreatants report developing an almost eerie ability to sense what others are feeling without verbal exchange, reading micro-expressions, posture shifts, and energetic qualities that normally pass unnoticed. Most significantly, this somatic awareness helps you recognize when you're compromising your integrity. The body always knows when you're betraying your values, even when the mind creates excellent justifications. That discomfort in your stomach, when you agree to something that isn't aligned with your truth, that's your body's wisdom speaking. Maybe it's your attitude which is bad. I think one of the missing links, one of them, it's not the only one, is care. Number one is you need to know what is care. Because if you don't care, you don't spend time with it. If you don't care, you don't have interest to your life. If you don't care about your health, you're not going to be healthy. When was the last time you made a decision based on what your body was telling you rather than what your mind rationalized? What sensations arise when you think about your current life direction? What would change if you trusted the wisdom of your body as much as the conclusions of your mind? By the final days of a 30-day silence, many participants describe an experience that seems paradoxical, a profound sense of control that comes not from forcing or manipulating reality, but from surrendering to it fully. Investigate your emotional and mental state and ask questions. Why did it come up? What is going to be the consequence if I remain in that state? And ultimately, non-identification means it is the practice. This surrender is not resignation or passivity. It is an active recognition that much of what we struggle against is simply the nature of reality that cannot be changed, the impermanence of all things, the presence of suffering, the inevitability of change. By accepting these fundamental truths rather than fighting them, an unexpected freedom emerges. I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not my emotion. It's just that I can see all these three aspects about me. When you recognize that you are not your passing thoughts, not your fluctuating emotions, not even your aging body, but the awareness that witnesses it all, something profound shifts. You're no longer frantically trying to control uncontrollable circumstances or people. Instead, you direct your energy toward the only domain where true mastery is possible, your own responses. The Shaolin approach is a little bit different. We are overcoming the suffering. We are not running away from the suffering. You are overcoming it. You go through it until you have become so strong, your body becomes so strong, your mind has become so strong that it doesn't matter afterwards anymore. In silence, the distinction between what you can and cannot control becomes crystal clear. You cannot control whether others approve of you, but you can control your need for that approval. You cannot control whether challenges arise, but you can control how you meet them. You cannot control the impermanence of all relationships, but you can control the authenticity and presence you bring to them. You feel it, but it's not the same like you felt before. So therefore, how to translate this into our nowadays lifetime? Maybe it means we need to make us stronger again. That is simply said. This society is too weak, and why? Because of all the technology which is available right now, so you don't need to use your body anymore. By day 30, Alex had undergone a profound shift. The insecurities and fears that had driven much of his behavior still occasionally arose, but he no longer identified with them as self. He could witness them with compassion, but not be controlled by them. This inner freedom allowed him to step back into the world with a presence he had never before experienced, speaking not from reactivity or habit, but from a place of genuine clarity. And this is the very initial starting point. Own your life. Own your life. If I look right now out in the world and also in the past, what I witness is simply like this. There is the tendency that a lot of things are being outsourced to everybody else, to institutions, to other people, which lie outside of you. This surrender paradoxically leads to authentic power. When you're no longer desperately trying to maintain a particular self-image or achieve specific outcomes, you can respond to life with creativity and wisdom rather than reactivity and fear. Your actions emerge not from anxiety about the future or regrets about the past, but from present moment clarity. Either we look out for somebody able to give us something, or if something is going wrong, we look for someone that we can blame. So it doesn't matter which direction we go. The point is, you never say, I was making the mistake, it's because of me. Most profoundly, this surrender allows for genuine connection with yourself, with others, with life itself. When you're no longer hiding behind masks or defensive strategies, an authentic presence emerges that others can feel and respond to. Relationships deepen, conversations become meaningful rather than performative, and ordinary moments take on a luminous quality. So one starting point is care. And as you see in this one slide, of course, the care for your family and of course the care for people that are precious to you. and in your surrounding. But you can only care for someone or for something if you know how care feels. You can only love someone if you know how love feels. What aspects of your life are you trying to control that might actually benefit from conscious surrender? What would change if you released your grip on how things should be and instead met reality as it actually is? What freedom might emerge if you stopped identifying with your thoughts and emotions as self and instead witnessed them with compassionate awareness? All of our lifetimes, all of our lives are too unique to copy the path from someone else. To bring meaning to your life, to bring value into your life, you need to learn and master yourself, and don't let the hindrances stop you. The most profound test of any retreat comes not during the experience itself, but when you return to ordinary life. It's one thing to maintain presence and clarity in a controlled environment designed for practice. It's quite another to sustain these qualities amidst the chaos and demands of everyday existence. Yet this is exactly where the practice proves its worth. The transformation that occurs in 30 days of silence doesn't fully reveal itself until you step back into conversation, relationships, and work. This is when you discover what has truly changed. Many retreatants describe a fundamental shift in how they communicate after extended silence. Words become more precise, more intentional. The compulsion to fill space with chatter diminishes. What emerges instead is a quality of speech that comes not from habit or social anxiety, but from authentic presence. There was mental training, development of behavior combined with the physical training, all aspects of what nowadays is known as Shaolin Kung Fu. Now, despite the wishes of my parents to somehow go out in the market and try to manage the world, I decided to continue this monastic life and start learning more about myself first. You may find yourself speaking far less but with greater impact. The words that do emerge carry the weight of embodied truth rather than conceptual understanding. You speak not to impress or defend, but to express what is genuinely alive in you. If you don't have love inside of you, how can you give it? If you don't have thankfulness inside of yourself, how can you give it? So everything is starting with yourself. What you want to see in this world, what you want to bring into this world, whatever you think is missing into this world. We are 8 billion people. So maybe 8 billion people have different ideas. What is missing in this world? By day 30, when Alex prepared to end his retreat, he realized he no longer felt compelled to convince others of his worth through carefully crafted speech. The insecurities that had driven so much of his communication, the need to appear intelligent, successful, or spiritual, had lost much of their power. What remained was a simpler, more direct expression that came from integrated presence rather than fragmented performance. This transformed communication extends beyond words to listening. After 30 days of silence, many people discover they've never truly listened before. Rather than half attending while formulating responses, they develop the capacity to offer complete attention, a gift that profoundly affects all relationships. But the point is, whatever you want to bring in, first of all, show it. First of all, you be the representative of what you think is missing there. This new way of being in the world isn't about maintaining a perpetual state of meditative bliss. Life will still present challenges, triggers, and difficulties. The difference lies in how quickly you can return to center when thrown off balance, how readily you can recognize when you've been captured by old patterns and find your way back to presence. If any of you chooses to climb that path to clarity, I would be very happy to meet you at the peak. What unnecessary words fill your conversations? What would remain if you spoke only what feels essential and true? How might your relationships transform if you offered the gift of complete, undivided attention? What would change if your speech emerged not from habit or fear, but from authentic presence? The journey of 30 days in silence represents one of the most profound investments you can make in your own development. Yet its value lies not in the temporary experiences it creates, but in how it permanently alters your relationship with yourself and the world. I was learning about many different aspects: how the plant is working, what an atom is made out of, how a political system is functioning, but somehow the subject was missing to learn something about myself. The patterns and hindrances you discover in silence don't magically disappear. The difference is that you now possess the awareness to recognize them, the compassion to accept them, and the wisdom to work skillfully with them, rather than being unconsciously driven by them. The mind cannot synchronize with your own actions anymore, and the result is that you are getting disconnected with the goals and aspirations that once you have set to yourself. When the way is filled with too much doubts, more often you will stop instead of moving on. That we know the 5 hindrances now, what are we going to do about them? This is the essence of self-mastery, not the elimination of all difficulties, but the cultivation of a new relationship with them. Not freedom from challenges, but freedom within them. Not the absence of hindrances, but the ability to work with them skillfully. You need to align and structure your life in such a way to prevent those hindrances from arising. If you are not successful, you need to use techniques in order to remove them. The invitation to silence is always open, available not only in formal retreats but in small moments of your everyday life. 5 minutes of intentional silence before beginning your day. A meal eaten without distraction. A walk taken without music or podcasts. Each represents a small investment in the clarity that emerges when noise subsides. Each of these hindrances is placing the dark cloud on your mind or on the way of your climb. Simply remember one thing: just let it rain. Sound of rain. This is a 4-step method to help you removing those hindrances. The first step is recognize in what state of the mind you are finding yourself in. The journey never truly ends. Each layer of awareness reveals another waiting to be explored. Each hindrance mastered unveils a subtler one behind it. Each insight integrated creates space for deeper understanding to emerge. Clarity means you see more clear. When you see more clear, interrelations become more apparent. When you see more clear, there is no need to believe anyone or believe anything. Seeing clear means you can distinguish for yourself which is the proper direction to take and which decisions do I have to make in order to make my goals or aspirations start to shape. Yet this ongoing nature of the path is not a burden, but a privilege. The privilege of a life dedicated to awakening rather than sleepwalking, to conscious evolution rather than unconscious repetition, to authentic engagement rather than habitual reaction. If this exploration resonates with your spirit, I invite you to share this insight with others who might benefit from it. Each person who awakens to greater clarity contributes to the collective evolution of consciousness that our world so desperately needs. See you next time. Keep your eyes open, your mind curious, and your spirit evolving.